So as people are still joining, first want to just thank everyone for your time today and thank you for joining this. This is a customer webinar. So these are our customers who have already they're already Action customers. This is kind of intended to be something we give back to you. Kind of drill into a topic. We've got a number of different topics you can find on our YouTube page and our website Aktion.com. But I think we're always looking to connect with people, and we've got a few introductory slides, and then Laura's going to get into some real good details about financial statements and the overview, and then how to actually get in and work with them. We're always looking for more topics. Also, if there's anything that you would like to see, we do have a list. I think our next one coming up next month, just to give you a little preview, our next one is going to be on fixed assets. Great little module that not everyone has, but it should be a great little show and tell about fixed assets and what it takes to manage that. If you want to go to the next slide, Laura.
My big old face there. Okay.
There we go. Yeah, Laura Kay is going to be our presenter today. She's one of our senior consultants. Very experienced, very deep financial history also. So yeah, she's going to do a great presentation today. Next slide. A few kind of overview slides here. It's going to take a couple minutes as people are joining. We wanted to let you know that there's options for support. We're here for whatever you need. Feel free to call us. We have a hotline that you can find on our Aktion website. As a way to connect and get in. Everyone is identified as an Acumatica customer. Will be given to our queue for hotline tickets for Acumatica. So we're always here to help you, no matter whether you have a support agreement or not. We do offer a support agreement as a quick level overview here on our platform and application support agreement. If you're interested in something like that, you're welcome to call you, talk to your consultant, talk to your sales rep, talk to Jennifer Kinsel, our practice manager, or myself even. Anyone can help you with that. Next slide, please. So we always like to remind people about all the activities going on as a member of the Acumatica community. There's a great set of content going on out there. There's always good discussions, good product related discussions, great places to ask questions, great places to go and learn things. There's a lot out here. Just always a reminder to kind of check in and see what's going on with the community. There's another summit coming up in January. I don't know who else planning on coming to that, but we look forward to seeing you there. And if you have any questions about that, again, feel free to ask about that. Next slide. Just as a quick housekeeping topic, whenever we get our customers together, there is a life cycle to Acumatica. Here's the current life cycle. It goes all the way out to the 22R1 release, the current release. Just know that there's a cycle to these products, and there's penalties if you don't stay. Once a product retires, once a version of Acumatica retires, there are penalties for not keeping up with that. So, again, if you need to do an upgrade, or if it's something that you want to talk about, feel free to contact your consultant, your sales rep, or Jennifer or myself also. Okay, next slide. And with that, we turn it over to Laura Kay to go dive into some of the content we have planned for today. So take it away.
Okay. Welcome, everybody. I don't know how many people are using the financial statements within Acumatica. It's nice that there's a lot of out-of-the-box pre-built financial statements for you. Today, I'm going to walk you through how to create your own, how to, make sure I got here. Sorry, I gotta minimize this one to get in here. There we go. So we're going to walk through some of the pre-built financial statements. So you guys are all familiar with the finance module, and then you notice that when you go there, there is all of these, you get a basic balance sheet, a basic profit and loss, and a cash flow statement. I believe you also get a balance sheet comparative and a profit and loss comparative, which is this year versus last year type of comparison. But you can create your own financial statements, and you can base it off of the pre-built ones, do sort of a copy and create your own. And what we're going to talk about today is how to do that and what really makes up a financial statement. So if you noticed, you have to have a report definition. And that's sort of the template that defines where on the site, it's, again, if you guys are familiar with creating new reports in the system, it's very similar. Financial statements do not use the typical report designer tool that you need to modify other reports in Acumatica. They have their own setup. So they're based on a report definition. And then within that report definition, you have to have a row set and a column set. So those are the two things that are required. So let me show you how you can see what a report definition is. You can either go into finance, and if you have the user security, underneath preferences, there is your list of report definitions. And again, I'm in a demo environment, so we have a lot more than what you guys are probably seeing. But again, it comes with the balance sheet comparative, the balance sheet, your profit and loss, and your statement of cash flows. So if you notice, if I pull up, let's say, for example, the profit and loss report definition, it has a code, a unique code identifying the report definition, and it has a description. But if you look on the right-hand side, it also has a sitemap. So it's visible to everybody on the UI. It has a sitemap title, and then here's where it's being displayed. It's being displayed in the finance workspace, which is the module, and it's being displayed underneath the financial statements category. So if you're creating a new one by either copying and creating a new one, you're going to want to tell it, it's going to create a brand new location on your sitemap, and you're going to want to tell it what the title is and the workspace and the category if you want to make it visible to everybody.
Hey,
One
Laura,
thing, yeah.
Laura, sorry to interrupt. It looks like we're still seeing the slide. It looks like you're showing trying to show a screen. We're not seeing that.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm glad. Let me just make sure I stop sharing, make sure I'm sharing everything. Should share everything. Are you guys seeing it now? Bob, do you see Acumatica now?
Yep. Now we can see Acumatica. It's perfect.
All
Thank
right.
you.
I must have grabbed the wrong sharing. All right. So I apologize. So basically it's under finance, report definitions, underneath the preferences. And then you'll see a list of all of the financial statements that are in the system. And then if I drill into the profit and loss report definition, it's made up of, the title, where it is located on your sitemap or where you can see it on the screen. It's also made up of what type of financial statement it is, GL versus projects. I don't know if you guys are familiar with, anybody who's doing project accounting out there knows that, you do have the ability to create specific project financial statements as well. It's made up of a unique row set and a column set. And then again, these come with the system. So this is a out of the box financial statement. And then unit sets, those are optional. So I like to basically have maybe a consolidated P&L, but I created a unit set called branches. And what that allows me to do is then drill into and see that same row set, same column set, just displaying by company or by specific branch, so that you're not having to create multiple financial statements and hard coding in what that company is or what that branch is. So that sort of gives you a dynamic approach to displaying the same financial statement. Underneath default data source settings, this is sort of the parameters. So when I run a report, it's going to request, so when I run this P&L, it's going to request that I give it what the ledger is. And just as a helpful note, out of the box, they don't pre-fill in the actual ledger in here. So if you want to go to your report definitions and you want to hard code in actual, so it doesn't ask you every single time, and it just puts that actual in there, you can actually do that yourself. I like to do that for most of my customers. And then it has asked, if you notice, it's also requesting that I have to fill in a start period. So when I run this P&L, it's going to ask me for the period. So let's say I'm running it for December 2021. It's also saying that my ending period is going to be the same as my starting period. So it's not giving like a range of dates. It's just saying, here's the P&L for this particular month. So you'll get a period date and you'll get the year-to-date amount on that same report. So the user will be requested to enter in whatever that period they're running the financial statement at that moment. So you can turn on or off if you wanted to do it for a range of sub accounts, you can do that. You can do it for a range of branches. So you can request them to run it by branches if you're not using like a unit set. The issue with doing a range is that, obviously if you're running it for a single branch, that works great. If you're trying to do it for a range of branches, it just seems like you're not going to get the dynamic approach that you would get with the unit set, where you can then drill in and change it on the fly as far as what branch or company you want to run it for. You can also specify what type of paper that you're using, whether it's, again, you have all kinds of choices here. So whether you're doing it on letterhead paper, then you maybe need to set a certain print area, you can put that in there. You can specify your margins. So, and a default font style. And again, the font can be changed at the column level as well as at the row level as well. So this is just the overall for the report. To create a new report, I can hit plus, and then I have to then specify everything that has this asterisk, so I have required information. Or if I know that I just want to create a new P&L using a different row set and column set, and I want to call it by a different name, but so it's going to be a separate report in my listing, in my financial statement listing, I could just click copy report, give it a new code. Now I suggest that you, if you do create a new report, you put like your initials in front of it as the code. Again, the title can be whatever you want to display it on the screen, but maybe put your initials or the company name in front of it so that you know that it's different than the Acumatica reports. So that's how you can basically copy and paste a new report or create a new report on the sitemap. Also, when you do create a new report, just like any new report in Acumatica, you have to give people access rights to that report or they won't be able to see it. So even if you make it visible on the UI, if they don't have the security to access it, they're not going to see it on the screen. So you may want to talk to your admin guru there or to your consultant and say, oh, I created a new financial statement. How do I give people access rights to it? I don't want to talk about security today because I don't know what everybody's level of knowledge is, but just remember that you do have to give access rights to a new report as well. So any questions about report definitions? And you guys can unmute yourself, or you can enter questions in the chat as we go on and we can talk about. But if there's anything that you guys need more explanation on, feel free to stop me while we're talking about this. Okay, I am going to go now into what makes up that, and I'm actually going to pull up the profit and loss and show how you can edit and see what makes up that report. So we were just looking at the profit and loss report definition and see how it pre-filled in my actual ledger. And it did request my financial period in here, but I can change it. And then I could just run my report, or if I need to edit or see the row set and the column set behind it, I can click on edit report. And again, you have to have the rights, the user rights to be able to edit these reports, not just view them. So you would have to have access to the report definition screen and then any row set or column set up as well. So again, by clicking on that, I can drill into the report definition directly from the financial statement that I just pulled up, and I can get, the report definition behind it. And then I can also click on the pencil next to row set, and it will open up another screen and show me the row set associated with that. So let's talk about the information that's stored in a row set. Again,
Sorry, yeah. I had somebody who had a question. Can you make a consolidation schedule that shows branches and columns?
Absolutely. Yep. I will show you how to do that. There's an example, and I'll reference that. Probably in the last 10 minutes or so of my presentation, I'm going to walk through some examples, and we can walk through the column sets and how they set that up. So I will remember to look at that as well. So let's talk about this row set here. And again, these are what are going to be displayed on in the individual lines on your report. So you can actually use the same row set and reference it in many different report definitions. So if your lines, if you run your P&L the same way, maybe you don't need to edit your row set. Maybe you could just use the out-of-the-box row set. If you do want to edit if you do need to make edits to the out-of-the-box row set, I would probably copy the row set and create a new one and make sure you reference the new one in the report definition so that you can always go back to the out-of-the-box one if you need to. Again, it just needs, it just needs you to have a unique, so if I do copy row set, it's going to ask me for a unique code so that I can specify it. And again, I would probably use your initials or the company name in front of it, or sort of abbreviated company name. So if I look at what makes up a row set is I have a unique line code. So obviously this is my sequential line code. And I can move things, I can change these codes. So if let's say I needed to add additional rows in here. So it is by good practice to always leave at least 10 in between each line if you can. I know they didn't necessarily do that. But between other revenue and returns and allowances, they left 10. So I could actually add additional lines in here and use like 112 or 113. So thinking towards the future, you might want to add additional headings or additional rows on here. So in groups of 10, as you add them is probably suggested. The description of what you want that line to print. Now, again, it's based on your data source, and we'll get to that in a second. The type of line, and your options are going to be whether it's a caption. If it's a GL, that means it's going to reference whatever's in the data source column, meaning is it coming from a particular GL account? Is it coming from an account class? So we'll get to that in a second. It could be a blank line. It could be an underline. It could be a solid line, a double line. So you can actually, add lines in there to space everything out appropriately. It could be a total, meaning that it's a total of the lines above it. You would reference that in the value header, or it could be a sort where, again, it's not a line that's actually going to print, but it's going to tell you based on a range of lines of how you want to sort those lines. So that's the type column. And then the value is going to be, again, if it happens to be a sort or a total, you would have something in the value here. Which could be like a calculated value. So if you look at this total line here, it's going to print total sales revenue. It's going to be a total, and it's going to be a total of everything from line 100 to 102. So that's what the at 100 is telling me in that total here. So if you wanted to say, I wanted 99 plus 100, you could have said, at 0099 plus at 0100. So you can actually reference, individual lines, or you could just say everything from this point on. The format, I don't think you really need to, that's if you needed to convert data from to a string value. So I don't know if anybody has any interest in that. I'm not as familiar with, C# formatting. The data source. So for example, on my sales details, I'm probably not going to print sales details as the line description. If I go into my data source for that GL line, I'm going to see that it's grabbing all of the accounts that are, if you look at your chart of accounts, every account is assigned to an account class. That's why it's kind of important to make sure that you set your accounts and you group things appropriately on your account class so that you can use them on your row set in your financial statements. So this is going to grab every GL account that has an account class of sales. And then I further want to not just group it under one line and call it sales details. I want to actually expand it out and show every account. And if I don't do a set, it's going to show my account number and description. So on the sales line, I am going to expand out by account, but it's only going to be the accounts that fall within the account class of sales. Okay, so that's what you can do on the data set, the data source on your row set. Some of the other things that you can do if you Again, you could have like an account range if you needed to reference that, or sub account range. Note that you can use the wildcards in any of these accounts or sub accounts, and it's the question mark. So if you knew that your first 2 digits were going to be a wild card, but then you wanted the next 2 digits of your sub account to be like 40, you could do, question mark 40. So the question mark is your wild card there. And then the style on that line, for example, on this caption line here, I wanted it to be bold and the font size, but you have other options here as well. And you can align it to be left, center, right. So you can do all kinds of formatting per line if you want to. Now, print control, by default, everything's going to be a line break, meaning it's going to print that line, then go to the next line. But you can actually say, you know what, I want that line hidden because it's going to be part of a total, and I only want to print the total. So maybe that line is going to be hidden. Merge next means I just want to merge that information into the next line. And I don't think I've ever really used start and end box, but it would be like if you're trying to start a group of lines, so you'd give it a start point and an end point. And then you do have the ability to do like a page break. So if I was looking at the balance sheet, for example, if I was doing a balance sheet row set, I might want my assets to print on the first page. And then right after that, I might say, hey, that line is going to start my page break. And then I want my liabilities and equities to print on the next page. So that's how you can define that individual line will start your page break. And then each line, you can also define the height, whether you want it indented, the line style. Again, if it's a line type, like on this particular line here, I want it to be a solid line versus a double line. So you have all kinds of formatting options for lines as well. You do have the option of saying whether you want something to be suppress an empty value versus a 0 value. So for example, empty means null, meaning there's no transactions for that line, versus 0, meaning the value is just 0, it nets to 0. So you can determine that on a line by line basis, whether you want to display that line or not based on it, whether it's null or 0. A linked row, I tend to use that when I'm referring to lines or maybe headers. So for example, in this situation, this line 0101 is associated with 0102. So if there is a value where if line 0102 prints, because it's not 0, there's actual data in it, then I want to print line 0101. So you can actually put some conditions based on whether you print a line or a caption based off another line's value. And then the base row is really just going back and referring to another, again, I don't use this very often, but it's basically going back in and saying, I'm basing this value on another line as well. Column group is a way of dynamically printing, saying whether you want to print that line based on whether I wanted to print for a particular column. So in other words, if on the column set, I say this column has print group line, then every line will print for that, then only these lines will print for that column. So you can conditionally print rows based on how a column prints as well. And then same thing on the unit groups. You can assign a unit group print option, and then you can say, well, only these rows are going to print if that unit prints, or if I'm running that particular unit group. Again, that's coming from the unit set. This is coming from your column set. Anybody have any questions on row set formatting or how to create new row sets?
I don't see anything right now, Laura.
Okay, all right. I know it's a lot of information, but again, you copy to create a new one, and then you would just reference the new row set in your report definition. All right, let's go back to this. We were working on the profit and loss. Now let's look at the column set that this report definition is using. So I'm going to click on the pencil here to edit it. And again, I can copy this column set, create a new one, reference that in the report definition if I want to. But now think about the columns that you want to display for that particular financial statement. And again, giving it a description is really just for internal purposes. It doesn't really print anywhere. The type is important, whether it's a GL, which is your normal, GL financial statement, or whether it's PM for your projects. And, there are some project financial statements out there that reference that are being displayed on the projects module as well. So the data will be different. What you reference in the data source will be different based on this type that you enter here. Now, in the header section here, this is sort of the title of the report. So again, I can control the height print, the print height, whether it's going to print based on a particular column group. I can put a formula in. So this is basically saying, get the account name from the company that I'm running it from. It's hard coding in that I always wanted to print profit and loss, and it's saying conditionally print, get the date based on a conditional formatting in here. So I won't go into it. But again, if I click on the magnifying glass, this is where you can modify the value that prints in that header. And you can also change how you want it to print. So in other words, I don't want it centered on my report. I want it sort of left aligned. So it's only going to print in column A. So my full header is printing on the left side of my page. Not aligning it within that column. But I can change my font and size and everything. I can make it bold. So whatever I change, as far as formatting, I could change it here, then I can copy the style and I can paste it to the next line if I want all 3 lines to print the same thing. I can add additional columns in here. So for example, if this was a trending 12-month, I would have to define all of the 12-month columns in here, not hard code in necessarily the title. And I'll show you in some examples of that sort of column set. But again, you can add additional columns in here. You can delete columns. You can copy the style from one column to the next column, copy and paste. Again, this is hard coding in that this is my year-to-date values in this column for my profit and loss, and then this is my period to date. And if I wanted to spell it out, I could change the values. It's in single quotes, just FYI. It just says print everything within the single quotes. Now, the detail at the bottom of this column set is what defines this year-to-date column and this period-to-date column. What data how am I going to get the data in there? Again, I know what my rows are based on my row set, but I need to figure out what data is going to be put into those columns. So some of the things you can put here, again, the type of column it is. So my first column, my column A, is my description of my row, right? My column B is the GL detail, coming from the GL detail, the transactions in my year-to-date and my period-to-date column. And I'm basing it on the row information. I don't want to do any rounding, but your options are to round, and you have all kinds of other rounding options as well. The format of how I want it to print. So I want to put a comma in there. I want it to print, 2 decimal places. So the pounds obviously refer to the numbering, and then again, this is just sort of out of the box formatting that you would just have to kind of follow that. The width of the column, again, these are in pixels, so they're not obviously inches. Whether I need an extra space, if I want to suppress a column because there's empty values or hide a column, I can suppress the lines associated with it. I could, again, this is where I would define the print group. So in other words, I only want certain rows to print in my year-to-date column or certain rows to print in my period-to-date column. So I define the column print group here, and then I reference the lines that I want to print in my row set. Same thing on the unit group. You would reference a print condition here, and then you would assign it to your unit set. Your options here are to print, hide it, or merge to the next. So again, you have control over how you want to print that column. If it was a calculated column, so again, your options are GL, where it's coming from GL detail from your data source. It's a calculated column that I would have to put something in the value here. Again, it could be a formula, and I can click on the magnifying glass and I can reference other fields or other parameters on the report definition. And I can create sort of a conditional value, a calculated value. One example with that is if I needed to add column B and C and create a new column, I could make, you know, column D be my calculated column, and I could reference, say, B plus C. So that's how you would, that's what you put in the value here. And then,
I'm
yeah.
sorry. I was trying to find a good time to interrupt you, so I apologize. Somebody was just asking a few minutes ago when you would use the Excel export feature, like examples.
Up here. I guess really just to be able to, because you can copy a column set, but this would actually just export out the information in this section. This would export out the information in this section. I don't know why you would want to do that, but if you wanted to be able to see it in an Excel spreadsheet of how it's going to print, if that helps you at all, there isn't like an upload feature. There isn't a way to like import it back in. So it's really just that they always give you the export feature in pretty much every table that you have. I hope that answered your question. Let's see. You can obviously do page breaks based off your columns as well. Your style, which is, you know, to align the values in this column, align them to the right. And then the data source is important here. This is really what's going to tell you the values that are going to be displayed in your rows. So if I click on the magnifying glass for my data source and my column set, it's telling me that my year-to-date column, I want to show my ending balance values for all my rows. But in my period-to-date column, I actually wanted the turnover, the month-to-month turnover. And just realize if it was a PM type, you would have project data source options in here that it would reference, like your WIP or your quantities, your amounts, you know, your budget information. Another thing that you can do, like if I was doing like a comparative report where I wanted actual versus budget, so let's say this is my actual column, this is my budget column, I could say grab the actual ledger here in this column, and then I could say grab the budget ledger in that column, assuming that you have your budgets already built into the system. So that's kind of just an overview of the information that you can get in your column set. And I'll go through some other examples that we have in our demo environment, just to kind of maybe kickstart maybe additional financial statements that you guys might want to create. All right, any questions again on column sets?
I don't see anything. Oh, wait, hold on. Oh, I think everybody's good. Everybody's thanking you for answering their questions.
Okay, great. All right, so again, we started with the report definition, which is really just how we're going to run the report. And then from that report, we needed to make sure we have the appropriate row set and column set. So how we're displaying our rows, and then how we're displaying our columns. And then let's talk now about a unit set, just so you can get some ideas of what you can do in a unit set. In my example here, I am running this demo environment. I have only two companies that I want to, again, I have a consolidated report, and then I want it broken out between my products company and my services company. So underneath my consolidated, I can show my two companies, and then my data source is going to reference either the company or the range of branches that make up that company. Same thing on my services company. I need to tell it which data source. Again, it's a range of it's going to be my range of branches that make up that company. And then underneath my products, so I could roll up and just see the products financial statement, which is my products company. But then I can also see the products retail, and then I can see the products wholesale. So I can get individual financial statements all in one. I don't have to create a new financial statement for these. Same thing on my services company. I can see the individual branches here as well. And again, a unit set can be GL data or it can be project data. You could set up a unit set for your sub account and reference, like arrange a segment of your sub account if you wanted to, and be able to just run a financial statement by department. I mean, that would be one way of doing it. Or you could put it as a condition in your report definition as like a parameter, like in here. So that's, in a nutshell, that's kind of what a unit set is. And then you can always say, always start with company product or always start with company service, so that when it runs, it just doesn't run the consolidated financial statement to start. I want to start it always with a particular company. So I can actually hard code in a start unit here. So let's just take a look at that example real quick, because that one, I do have a profit and loss by branch. Make sure that's actually, I can just see it in my normal profit and loss. So let me just run this report, because I added in the report definition, I added the branches unit set here, so I can actually see how to run a unit set. So if I run the report, see how you have this groups icon at the top here, and that tells me that I have a unit set attached to this report. So when I run it, it's showing me my consolidated, and I can change the title to say consolidated if I want to. And when I click on the groups, now it allows me to run it for the product company, the product retail branch, the product wholesale branch, the services company, and then each one of the branches underneath the service company, or just go back to my consolidated. So that's what that unit set gives you. It gives you the dynamic ability to sort of change, consolidate, roll everything up, or display things very, separately. That's up to you. And then you could also put a condition in the title where you would reference, based on the unit set that you're clicking here, the title will change. So example, this is my consolidated report. This is my revision 2 products. See, they did not conditionally change this, but I have put that in there. If you go to your column set, you can actually conditionally put this in there so that it displays the services company in the title as opposed to the parent company here, the company that I'm actually sitting in at the top of my screen here. That's what it's looking at. So I would actually have taken this one step further and actually reference the unit set that I'm dynamically clicking on and have it be a formula in my column set. All right, let's look at a couple other ones. For example, I just want to kind of show you on the balance sheet. If I click on that one, you'll notice that they have a different row set and a different balance sheet set, column set that it uses. What's notable in this one is the column set, that my data source is going to be different. Again, I only have 2 columns on this one. I have my description, and then I have my GL, which is my amount column. So it's just giving me, balance sheets are just ending balance, right? So I run it for, December 21, it's going to give me my ending balance as of 12/31/21. So that data source is no longer going to be turnover. It's always going to be ending balance for this particular column. So that's just the difference here. Another thing to note that I just ran into, if you, in your row set, let me go back to a row set real quick. I hate to flip around with it. And let's look at our balance sheet row set. And I know some of you guys have experienced this, and I had to actually go back to Acumatica to get a workaround on this. I'm not sure why their row set out of the box does this, but if you notice on their row set, like if I want to say, hey, on my cash accounts, I want to expand out, but I only want to show my account description and not the actual account code, the GL account number and description. And I just want to show the description. I have to actually change the column set that they give you. I actually have to go in and edit the column set. I think I might already have it open here. Guess I don't. I have to change this column set from a calc, and I actually just have to remove the value in here and let it print the description. For some reason, this is overriding the ability to print description only. So if any of you guys have experienced that, trying to change the data source to like account description and it's not printing for you, make sure that the description column is referencing it as a description with no value in here. So hopefully that helps you guys, because I had to find out the hard way there. All right, so that's kind of the difference between a P&L and a balance sheet. And then let's look at some of the other, I wouldn't say out of the box, because there's some other ones. I know somebody referenced that they wanted to see a P&L by branch where the branches are showed as different columns. So here's an example of that. They probably use the same row set, right? They just use the normal P&L row set, but they created a new column set where it allows you to show the different branches. So if I edit that column set, you'll notice that it is conditionally getting each branch. So it says, okay, this is my product wholesale branch. This is my product retail branch. This is my services east branch. So they're basically hard coding in the title. And then in the data source, they're actually referencing the branch that is associated with that title. So you can actually display all of your branches, you know, in each column, as opposed to doing like a unit set where you can sort of dynamically show them on different reports, I guess.
Okay, I have another one for you, Laura.
Sure.
Edit report doesn't show for me when I access a balance sheet or a P&L report. Is this something available at certain levels of security?
Yeah.
I do have admin access.
I don't know if you're set up as a user role admin. I believe
She said she does have admin access.
Okay, probably GL admin role, user role will probably give her access to be able to edit all the reports. I would try adding the GL admin user role to her user if she can do that, and see if that helps her. And then, I'm sorry, whoever asked the question about showing this type of P&L by branch, did that answer your question? Hopefully.
I was just thinking about trying to unmute her real quick.
That's okay.
Yeah, she said yes, it did. And then the edit report one said that she'll try that as well. So that's good.
Okay, great. Yeah, there's 3 different types of user roles for GL. There's the GL admin, there's a GL clerk, and then there's a GL viewer. And so I thought admin would give you all the rights for this. I don't know if it was taken away. If the GL admin doesn't work, that means it might have been taken away at the admin user role level. So we'll have to probably have someone look at that. Let's look at a couple other examples. Let's look at a P&L comparative. I think we already kind of, yeah, let's look at a comparative one. Let's see.
Oh, I do have a couple other questions that came into Laura. Just a second here. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Everybody was in the chat section, and then I saw a few pop in the Q&A, so keeping me on my toes. Okay, the edit report one I think was already answered. There's a permission set for report designer. Oh, she's kind of answering your question, one of those questions as well. So I apologize. Let's see. I think that's it.
Yeah, but I don't think that user role report designer has anything to do with financial statements. I could be wrong, but I think report designer is just for the normal reports that use the report designer tool. But again, that may be true. You might want to look at the report designer user role. So thank you, whoever put that in there. Any other questions?
Nope, that was it.
Okay. All right, so let's look at a couple more examples here. There was the profit loss rolling 12 month. I kind of wanted to show you that example. If I go into my edit report, you know, I might want to use my same row set, but maybe I now want to do like a rolling 12 months and have it sort of conditionally, I don't want to hard code in what those months are going to be. So let's just look and see what it's, how that's running. So it's going to go back to, I'm running it for August of 2022. It goes back 12 months and it shows me my periods all the way back for 12 months. So what's important on this one is that you get the column set up correctly. So in this one, I'm going to go and drill into that column set. And as you can see, they put some conditional formatting in their headers here. So they said the first column is going to be whatever my starting period is. My next column is going to be the starting period -1. So that would be, you know, the August, July, June, and, you know, so on. So you can see that they took this out 12 months to get my rolling 12 months. If I wanted to start and go 12 months out the other way, obviously I wouldn't be doing the negative, I'd be doing the positive. So just FYI, it's just telling me to go back 12, but that's just in the header section. In my data source, I actually have to tell it again, my first column is going to be my turnover, that, you know, amount. That's in my August column. So that's the period to date amount. This next column is going to be my turnover, but I'm going to offset my period, not my year, but I'm going to offset it by 1. So my start and my end are the same. So I have to put -1 in both. And then same thing for the next period. It's going to be offset by -2 in my period. And then so on. So that's kind of a nice way of showing, you know, this particular financial statement. This is a rolling 12 month. Post some of these things out here. All right, some other examples would be profit and loss. I had a comparative one. Let's just look at a balance sheet yearly comparison here. Let's see what it looks like. So this one is 2022 versus 2021 with a variance. I think this one's out of the box as well. So if I edit that and I look at my column set, again, I think these are just out of the box ones. You'll notice that it's grabbing my start period year and it's taking the start period, which is my year -1 to get my prior year. But in my data source, again, it's a balance sheet, so I want ending balance, right, as my amount type. For my last year's information or my prior year's information, instead of offsetting it by period, I'm going to offset it by year. So it's going to be -1. So it's going to be current period -1 in the year. So this first field is for my year. The second field is for my period. So that's how you do a comparative, this year versus last year. And another one that might be nice is on the project side. Again, I have some pre-built ones in here and I said, hey, let's display it on my projects. You know, I said display it underneath the project module, underneath the report section, and I have a project budget versus actual. So let's look at the way this is set up. This one has asking me for a financial period. It's asking me for a range of projects that I want to run it for. So if I look at my report definition, you'll notice that the type is actually project, not general ledger information. It references this row set and this column set. And I have requested that they give me a start and end project, and I can actually hard code in that, or I can remove that. And it's also requesting a start period, and it's just using the current period as a default. If I go into my column set, you'll notice that I've hard coded in my headers here. I want budget to be in one column with expenses, and then this is a calculated column made up of my budget minus my WIP. So it's B minus C minus D. So again, this is, they didn't put real fancy title in there. It's literally budget minus WIP minus expenses. And then if you notice on the data source, you're going to get different amount types in your data source now because it's a PM type of column set or a PM type of financial statement. You're going to get things like, you know, budget quantity, budget amount, original versus revised. So if you look at a project and you look at your cost budget, you're going to see these types of values in there, and you can actually create financial statements and display it, you know, how you want it in an actual financial statement format instead of just looking at it on the screen. All right, any questions on the different types of financial statements? Anybody want to see like another example? Happy to kind of give you that information.
Let's see.
Any other questions we have there?
I haven't seen any other questions come in.
Few minutes
You-
here.
And also, if anybody has questions that might be easier to speak rather than type, you can certainly just let me know in the chat and I can unmute you too. So
I'm just going to quickly go through what we talked about today. So we talked about setting up a report definition or modifying a report definition that already exists. Again, making it visible on the screen, and that you have to make sure that you give it security access. If it's a new report, you did like a copy in a new report. You got to make sure you have it reference a row set and a column set, and then a unit set if you want. That's only if you want to create a unit set for conditionally displaying it. You're going to just define the parameters or your data source settings. You're going to give any page or print settings at the report definition level. And then again, you can copy to a new one, and you can actually import and export out to a new one. So if you had multiple tenants or multiple databases, or if you liked something in the demo database and you wanted to export that out, that report definition out to your live tenant, you can actually import and export your report definition, and it'll actually copy in the new row set and the column set. So just be careful when you do that because it could override an existing row set or column set. So be very careful with the import export feature. So that's what you can do in a report definition. And we talked about making sure access to any new reports. We talked about how to modify or create new row sets. What you can define at the data source. Now you don't need to give a data source at the row set if you've given it at the column set. So column set sort of overrides, well, I should say the row set will override what you've put on the column set. So if you do reference like a data source at a row set might be that I want my account class, or I want to display the individual accounts, but I might not put in what type of amount that goes in there. I don't need to say that it's beginning or turnover or ending balance. I would want to make sure I do it in the data source on the column set. I can do formatting. I can do conditional column printing based on different columns or rows. On the column set, again, I can create new column sets based off existing. I can conditionally put titles in there where there's like a calculated value that goes in there. I can add additional columns and copy and paste the style. And again, the style would be like the font, the alignment, the size. I can create print groups that I can reference in my row set, and then I can also change the data source on my column set. And then we talked about unit sets, setting up a unit set so that I can group things on an existing financial statement. So I can set up levels of groupings, give it a data source as well as a print group as well. And then running it, it uses the parameters from the report definition. You can run it by a grouping if you've defined a unit set in the report definition. And then one thing I didn't show you was the drill down ability that you get with your financial statements. You know, kind of out of the box here. Let's look at just a normal profit and loss here. If I run it, if you'll notice that everything is highlighted in blue, that means I can drill down into the general ledger transactions with the general ledger details behind it. Then I can further drill into the account or sub account and see the individual transactions that make up that balance. So the drill down ability is very nice in here. Again, you can print from this screen here. You can export it out to Excel or PDF. You can also email from the screen by clicking the send as well. Another thing to note is, and then this is sort of standard in any reports in Acumatica, is you can create templates. So if you always run a financial statement and you want the conditions, the parameters to always be the same, you can actually create a template. You know, you could save this as a template, give it a new name, you can share it. What's nice is you can also, so let's say, for example, I want to not only, I always want to run it for the current period. I can save this template. I can say, you know, current P&L. So when I go in here, the idea behind this is that you're going to want to then schedule that template if you want it to automatically run. So it basically, by scheduling it, it lets you set up a automation schedule where you can then merge a bunch of reports together under the same schedule, and you can then set up your print and email settings. So if I run this P&L every month and I want to always send it to these particular email addresses, I can save that all in the template, and then I can create a schedule, and I can tell it on the automation schedule how often I want to run it. So when it runs it, it knows to either attach it as a PDF and email it directly to these recipients here. So that's a nice feature. Again, you can do this with any report, but that's something that, you know, you might want to think about if you run your financial statements and you need to email them out to like the board of directors or whoever at the end of every single month. Okay, I think we got that covered. So running it, saving and running your templates, scheduling your templates, and then we talked about the print and email settings there. I know Bob talked about if you want additional support, you can always email Action at support@action.com, and it will create a ticket out there, and you'll be routed to the next consultant who can help you with whatever. Again, it doesn't have to be financial statement related, it could be anything. If you're under a PAS agreement, you know, obviously you won't be billed for every single instance of the support. If you're not under a PAS agreement, it just is any, you know, depending on what your request is, it's billable, you know, at the normal rate that you're used to. If you want to get additional learning tools, if you have set up a user ID with Acumatica's portal, you can go to their Open University, and there's all kinds of courses out there, job aids, videos, related specifically to maybe certain job functions. So there's one out there for the financial person, the AP person, the payables person. So that's a really nice tool to go out there and look at. I've also worked with a third party, again, this isn't a tax product, ignore the tax in there, but there's a third party product that does integrate nicely with Acumatica. It's called Elixo. It basically is an add-on to Excel that goes out there and grabs the data from Acumatica, allows you to create your own reports or financial statements within Excel. And it will update, you know, you can actually have it update the information automatically. You can send distribution lists directly. So if you're familiar with Excel, it's a really nice tool. So if anybody has any need for that, you might want to contact your salesman or any consultant that you're normally working with, and they can maybe get you a demo of Elixo for that. But that is a really nice add-on tool to Acumatica and to Excel. All right, we are right at the 3 o'clock mark. Does anybody have any further questions? Hopefully you guys got something out of this.
Great presentation, Laura. Filled up that hour completely. You know, truly appreciate everyone's time today, and you know, this was a very good, very detailed, in-depth. You know, and I love the examples of kind of showing how all those row sets and column sets will actually translate into to the results on a page when you go to the report. So, you know, great job. If anyone needs help with these ideas, hopefully this was helpful, and and valuable to you. If you do need help with any financial reporting or any reporting of any kind or anything actually with Acumatica, please feel free to reach out and give us a ring.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Bob.
Yeah,
Thanks,
have a good night.
everyone.